An hour after I woke up from surgery, my $50,000 bonus vanished. By sunset, HR called my boss just to check on me. He didn't know I was on the line and they were recording. I'm going to tell this straight because I don't have the energy for theatrics. I'm 32, operations analyst, the kind that writes the boring but critical spreadsheets that make sales promises real. Last week I was in pre-op reading a PDF. Today I'm home with a stitched abdomen, a plastic hospital bracelet still imprinting my skin, and a Slack notification that turned my stomach more than the anesthesia did. If stories about calling out workplace nonsense matter to you, tap like and subscribe, and tell me where you're listening from. I read them when the pain meds wear off, and I need a reason to stay calm. 3 days before the surgery, my team closed the biggest client we've ever touched. Enterprise Facilities Company, multi-year rollout, 7 figures in year 1 alone. Sales is all champagne. Ops is all checklists. My part was the ugly part, nailing down service-level math, inventory flow, and a rollout schedule so conservative it could run a bank. We beat a competitor by promising we wouldn't burn the client's staff out in month 1. My boss, Grant, messaged me the night before the countersign. "When this lands, we'll take care of you." His words. I saved the message, even though I didn't think I would need to. The contract hit DocuSign at 11:12 a.m. Friday. The client countersigned at 11:28. At 12:04, I got an email from finance titled Q2 Performance Bonus Confirmation, attaching a one-pager with my name, the deal code, and the number $50,000 tied to earned upon client countersign, executive approval received. It was the most adult piece of paper I've ever saved to my desktop. I took a screenshot and sent it to my partner with a string of celebratory emojis that make me cringe now. Saturday night, my abdomen went to war. ER scans, words like obstruction, a consent form that looked more like a mortgage. I came out of anesthesia sometime early Sunday to a ceiling that hummed, and a nurse named Kira who said, "You did great." I believed her because it hurt. The first 36 hours blurred. IV pump beeping, ice chips, a TV channel about home renovation that I couldn't figure out how to mute. Then Monday afternoon, still in the hospital, I woke up to my phone buzzing itself across the tray table. Slack. Grant mentioned you're out. Hope you're okay. Then another. Quick heads up on bonuses. Company-wide update. Don't worry. And then his email, the one I've replayed 100 times. Due to some unexpected budget reallocation, we're pausing discretionary payouts until Q3. Yours is safe, just delayed. Focus on recovery. I stared at the word discretionary like it was a spider crawling out of my incision. I opened the PDF from finance again and read the line I already knew by heart. Performance payouts are earned upon client countersign and executive approval. It wasn't ambiguous. There's a table under it for timing and withholding. Nowhere did it say, unless your boss feels like parking your money. I am not a dramatic person. I wrote Grant back the way I draft process docs. Hi, Grant. Thanks for the note. To align on policy, attaching the Q2 performance payout memo and the executed MSA, countersigned 11:28 a.m. Friday. Please confirm payout date as stated. I CC'd the generic compensation mailbox. Not because I wanted to start a war, but because anesthesia makes you honest and policies make me brave. Nurse Kira lifted my IV line to tuck the blanket and asked if I wanted more ice. I nodded. While she was gone, I scrolled back through my messages. There it was. Grant's Slack from last week. We'll take care of you. There was also his calendar invite titled Retention Pool Sync, which I declined because I was busy building the launch plan. I felt stupid for remembering the title. I felt smart for screenshotting it anyway. At 6:41 p.m., a new email arrived from HR with a subject line that tried very hard to sound gentle. Checking in, accommodation resources. The body was all neutral verbs. We heard you may be recovering from a procedure. Please let us know if you need time off or accommodations. Also, if you have any questions about compensation policies, During leave. Happy to connect. There was a line at the bottom that said, "This call may be recorded for accuracy." I've never seen that in a wellness check. I called my partner and asked for quiet, which is a weird sentence when your entire apartment is already silent. They sat by the window pretending to read while watching me pretend to be calm. I replied to HR, "Yes, a quick call would help. I have policy questions." 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with a private number. I put it on speaker, folded one hand over my stitches, and answered. The HR person, Sophia, had the voice of someone who is paid to keep people from escalating. She asked how I was feeling and whether I needed forms. I said I was okay and had them. She asked if I felt comfortable talking about compensation. I said I preferred to anchor to policy. She asked me which policy I was looking at. I read the paragraph title and the sentence about earned upon countersign plus executive approval. She hummed. Not a yes, not a no. A recognition sound. "Would you be open to looping in your manager for context?" she asked. "We can keep this short." "I'm fine to be on the line," I said, suddenly very awake. "If we're discussing policy, I'd like to hear it." She put us on hold and added him so cleanly I didn't hear the bridge click. Grant came in bright, like a morning radio host. "Hey, champ. First, how are you feeling? We're all thinking about you. I looped in HR earlier to make sure you had support." "Thanks," I said, and I meant it in the small, literal way. Sophia explained the purpose of the call, how it was about support and clarity. "For accuracy, we'll record," she added. Grant laughed, the way people laugh when they're trying to sound comfortable saying something uncomfortable. I didn't. "Just a misunderstanding," he said. "Companies pause discretionary bonuses this quarter. It's standard. Nothing to sweat. We'll make it up." "Can I confirm what we're calling discretionary?" I asked. I read the single sentence again. I said the date the executive approval was logged. I gave the ticket number. I said the deal code that would be on the ledger because I'd put it there. Grant pivoted. "Right, but the spirit of the policy is—" Sophia cut in, but softly. "Let's use the language as written for now," I heard typing. "If you can forward the documents you mentioned, we'll make sure we're all reviewing the same materials." I said I could. My hands were shaking hard enough that I put the phone on the tray and typed with 2 fingers. I attached the memo, the executed contract, the finance confirmation, and the screenshot of Grant's "We'll take care of you," which felt petty and also exactly right. I did not editorialize. I did not add a sentence that started with "funny how." I sent the receipts and watched the little paper airplane icon move across the screen like it had somewhere important to be. There was a small silence on the call that wasn't empty. It was the kind of silence you get when 2 people are reading the same sentence and deciding what it means for their day tomorrow. Grant cleared his throat. "Look, timelines are fluid. We had to reallocate into a retention pool." "I hear you," I said, because I did hear the words. "I'd like to understand how the policy supports that reallocation." More typing on Sophia's end. "Thank you for sending these. I'll review with our compensation governance folks tonight. In the meantime, please don't worry about next steps. Focus on recovery. We'll be in touch." We hung up. The room went back to its normal noises. My partner finally exhaled. I stared at the ceiling and felt the ache arrive as the adrenaline faded. A heavy, honest kind of hurt. I wasn't angry yet. Anger requires energy. What I felt was something quieter. The relief of having the words match the paper, and the paper in someone else's inbox, where I couldn't take them back. I plugged my phone into the charger, took a careful breath against the stitches, and opened my email once more to make sure the attachments actually sent. The memo sat there, attached and unremarkable. The most important, boring document in my life. HR said, "We'll record for accuracy." Grant laughed. I didn't, because the policy he quoted to deny my bonus was already on my screen, highlighted in yellow, and it contradicted him word for word. I need to make something clear. I'm not a hero, and I'm not out for blood. At that moment, I was a guy with stitches. a morphine button, and an inbox full of contradictions. Grant kept talking like the call was a friendly misunderstanding. We've all got to be flexible. Budgets shift. This is temporary. He had that tone managers use when they want you to feel silly for caring about the rules they themselves wrote. Sophia from HR was calm. Too calm. She repeated, "Let's make sure we're aligned on the written policy." I read the section line by line, slow and flat, like I was reading instructions off a fire extinguisher. Performance-based payouts are considered earned upon client countersign and executive approval. There was no asterisk, no unless your boss decides otherwise. Grant chuckled like I was being literal. "It's discretionary in spirit," he said. "Spirit doesn't pay bills," I answered. My voice cracked halfway through because my throat was dry, not because I was scared. Or at least that's what I told myself. Sophia cleared her throat. "Could you both forward the documentation you're referencing? I'd like to make sure we're all reviewing the same version." "I'll send mine now," I said, attaching the bonus memo again, plus the email from finance and the contract countersign. The hospital Wi-Fi was slow, so I stared at the loading bar like it was a lifeline. Grant's tone shifted. "Look, this isn't about you. Everyone's affected. I rolled 3 team bonuses into a Q4 retention pool. It's bigger picture stewardship." The words didn't land the way he thought. Because 10 minutes after the call, while I was still trying not to tear my stitches by sitting up, my phone buzzed with a screenshot from a teammate. It was a Slack conversation Grant had with the director. The retention pool wasn't for the team. It was tied to his personal KPI, an executive retention target that directly padded his year-end. My $50,000 and 2 colleagues' payouts had become a line item in his bonus formula. I didn't forward that screenshot to HR right away. I stared at it until my vision blurred. There was a column of text, Grant saying, "They won't miss it if we call it a pause. Q4 will look cleaner. Controller signs off when we phrase it as discretionary." The director replied with a thumbs-up emoji. A thumbs up for stealing earned money. I felt heat under the blanket, like fever or rage, I couldn't tell. I asked my partner to read the screenshot out loud just to confirm I wasn't hallucinating. They read it slowly, word for word, and then looked at me like I'd just handed them a crime scene photo. That night, Sophia emailed me directly. "Thank you for forwarding the documents. Please keep them as is. No additional commentary needed. We may follow up for further clarification." The wording was careful, but one line at the bottom stood out like a flare. "Please do not discuss this matter with your manager until further notice." HR never writes that unless something's already rolling downhill. I lay back against the stiff hospital pillow and whispered to myself, "Let the paper do the talking." Because it wasn't just my word against Grant's anymore. It was timestamps, attachments, signatures, and now a screenshot that showed intent. At 9:41 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Calendar invite. Mandatory compensation governance review. Attendees, HRBP, controller, Grant, me. The meeting title alone told me something. They weren't calling it a wellness check anymore. I shut my eyes and tried to sleep, but my heart wouldn't let me. Because in less than 12 hours, we'd all be on the same call again. And this time, the controller, the one who managed the actual ledgers, would be in the room. I didn't threaten a lawyer. I sent receipts. Turns out HR prefers PDFs over outrage, and my boss had signed 2 of them. That night, after the governance review invite dropped, I knew I couldn't walk into that meeting with just indignation. Paper wins where anger doesn't. So I opened my laptop, propped against the hospital tray, and built a folder titled, simply, Q2 Evidence. Inside it, I stacked the documents like bricks. The finance email with my name and bonus amount, timestamped. The bonus policy PDF with the exact sentence highlighted. The executed client contract countersigned, with metadata showing the 11:28 a.m. signature. The Slack message from Grant. "When this lands, we'll take care of you." and the invoice trail from the retention pool, cross-referenced against the pet contractor's payment requests. That last one made me pause, because I noticed something ugly. The contractor's invoice totals matched the reallocated pool within a few $100s. Grant wasn't just padding his executive KPI, he was funneling part of it into a vendor he controlled. Whether it was favoritism or fraud, I couldn't tell yet, but it smelled wrong. I wrote no accusations in my email, no long paragraphs. Just, attached are the relevant documents related to my bonus payout, as earned per policy. Please confirm receipt. At 9:41 p.m., Sophia replied within 5 minutes. Thank you. Please do not discuss this further with your manager. We'll review in tomorrow's session. Focus on your recovery. The words were neutral, but the speed wasn't. HR doesn't work at 9:41 p.m. unless something is escalated beyond their control. Lying back, IV humming, I stared at the ceiling tiles and wondered what line Grant thought he could balance on. Maybe he believed discretionary was a magic word. Maybe he assumed I'd be too drugged, too broke, or too scared to push. Maybe he thought $50,000 could disappear into the ether because hospital patients don't check policy PDFs at midnight. What he didn't calculate was how boring people like me survive. I live inside receipts. I breathe timestamps. My entire job is building airtight chains of custody for numbers. He should have known better than to try me on paper. At 7:12 a.m., my phone buzzed again with the reminder, mandatory, compensation governance review, attendees, HRBP, controller, Grant, me. 4 names, 4 corners of a square, and in less than an hour, someone's side would collapse. I tightened the hospital gown around me, opened the evidence folder one more time, and whispered to myself, no threats, no emotions, just the truth as written. Because in corporate wars, the loudest person rarely wins. It's the one with the cleanest attachments. My boss opened with, we're all reasonable adults. The controller opened with an audit log. The governance review started with that weird fake politeness managers love. Grant was already on camera when I joined, smiling like a morning show host, sleeves rolled up, acting like this was a friendly check-in. Sophia from HR had her notebook up, pen steady, not smiling at all. And then the controller joined, a man I'd spoken to maybe twice before. Gray hair, wireframe glasses, the type who carries silence like a weapon. Sophia kicked it off. This is a compensation governance review. Purpose is alignment on earned performance payouts. For transparency, this call is recorded. She looked straight into her webcam when she said it, like she wanted it on the record that she'd said it. Grant jumped in before she could continue. Look, this is all a misunderstanding. We're all reasonable adults here. We had to reallocate budgets this quarter. Everyone's been affected, not just my name. Nothing nefarious. The controller didn't bother with small talk. He shared his screen. An audit log popped up. Rows of transactions and approvals, neat as a confession. He scrolled to a line item titled Retention Pool Reallocation, with 3 bonus payouts listed under source funds. Mine was one of them. Grant, he said, voice low and flat, can you explain why these funds, categorized as earned, were moved into a discretionary retention pool under your executive KPI? Grant leaned back, chuckled, and threw his hands up. We've been over this. It's discretionary. It's standard practice. Sophia clicked her pen. Please reference the written policy. So I did. I read the same sentence again, the one I'd practically memorized in morphine haze. Performance payouts are earned upon client countersign and executive approval, Grant cut in. But the spirit of the policy? The controller didn't let him finish. Spirit doesn't hit the ledger. Transactions do. Silence. You could feel it. Then Sophia asked, soft but surgical, did you notify the impacted employees that their earned bonuses were being reclassified for your retention KPI? Grant's face tightened. That's not how I'd phrase it. The controller scrolled again. Additionally, vendor payments from the same pool align dollar for dollar with a contractor tied to your cost center. Explain the business justification. Grant started to speak, but Sophia interrupted. For accuracy, yes or no? Did you authorize these reallocations? He froze. The audit log was still on screen, his approval signature glowing like a neon sign. Yes, he said finally. Quiet. Sophia nodded as if she'd just confirmed a box on a checklist. Effective immediately, you're placed on administrative leave pending investigation. IT, please suspend access. Right there in real time, Grant's team's status flipped from green to gray. 1 second he was in the meeting, the next, his screen went black. The call ended quickly after that. The controller stayed on just long enough to say, your bonus will be wired within 48 hours. Back pay adjustments for 2 other employees are in process. PTO and leave time will be restored per policy. When I logged off, my partner was staring at me like they'd just witnessed a car crash in slow motion. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. Then my inbox dinged. A private message from Sophia. Thank you for your composure. We'll need a written statement. Also, please confirm if you're open to discussing the role Grant previously blocked. The screen blurred for a moment. My stitches throbbed. My throat went dry. Because suddenly this wasn't just about a bonus anymore. It was about whether I was ready to step into the chair he'd just been pulled out of. HR asked me what I wanted. Not revenge, terms. The morning after Grant's access went dark, Sophia called me directly. No recording this time, just her voice. Calm, precise. We'll need your written statement, but before that, what outcome are you looking for? I had 24 hours to think about it. Lying in the hospital bed, I wrote a list on the back of my discharge papers. Not demands, conditions. I wasn't going to scream or posture. I was going to document, the same way I'd done with everything else. 1. No retaliation clause, in writing, signed by HR and legal. 2. Title bump, the role Grant had blocked for me 6 months ago, reinstated. 3. Comp review in 90 days, tied to market benchmarks, not politics. 4. Mentorship from the controller, not HR, because numbers don't lie. When I finally sent the email, I didn't add adjectives, just bullet points and a subject line. Requested terms for resolution. By the time I was discharged and back home, an email from HR was waiting. We can accommodate the above. Please confirm banking details for immediate disbursement. An hour later, the wire hit. $50,000, plus accrued interest, plus a PTO restoration adjustment that added another $3,800. I stared at the number until the screen dimmed. My partner sat beside me and cried in quiet relief. I didn't. Not yet, because the money was real, but so were the medical bills stacked on our counter. So was the ache in my stitches every time I laughed, and so were the 2 colleagues who had been cut out of their bonuses the same way I almost was. When I called them, one started crying so hard I couldn't understand the words. His baby was in the NICU. That $15,000 wasn't discretionary for him. It was oxygen tanks, diapers, and gas money for hospital visits. We met quietly in the break room 2 days later, just the 3 of us. We didn't toast or high-five. We just sat in silence, letting it sink in. We'd been played, but the paper trail had won, not our volume. That night, another calendar invite landed. All hands meeting, leadership update, and bonus governance. No details, no agenda. Just a block on every single employee's calendar. And the rumors were already flying. Someone had seen Grant cleaning out his desk. Someone else said the pet contractor's badge access was revoked. Someone whispered the word resignation. I closed the laptop and leaned back, hand over the line of stitches in my abdomen, and thought, this wasn't over. It was only about to go public. They called it a transition. I call it a receipt. The all-hands started at 10 a.m. sharp. Cameras on, faces lined up in their little squares. The air was the kind you could taste. Everyone already knew something was coming. They just didn't know how hard it would land. It wasn't Grant leading the call. It was Sophia, flanked by the controller. That alone told the story. She read from a prepared note. Effective immediately, leadership changes have been enacted to strengthen our compensation governance and restore confidence. An interim director will oversee operations, while an external review is completed. We are grateful for Grant's contributions and wish him well in his transition. Transition. That corporate word that means, don't ask, don't clap, he's gone. Then the controller spoke. No notes. Moving forward, all performance bonuses will be logged with direct employee acknowledgement. No discretionary reclassification will be permitted without dual sign-off from finance and HR. Vendor payments tied to executive KPIs will be subject to quarterly audits. The chat exploded. Not with jokes, not with emojis, but with thank yous. Real relief bleeding through text. People had been holding their breath longer than I realized. When the call ended, my inbox lit up. Promotion letter, title change, the same role Grant had quietly blocked months ago. And beneath it, a comp review date in 90 days, already calendared. Grant didn't reach out officially, but 2 hours later, a text landed from a number I knew too well. You ruined me. I stared at it until the typing dots appeared, then stopped. I opened a reply window, wrote one word, policy, deleted it, closed the thread, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about proof, and the proof was already filed in 3 HR servers and 1 compliance archive. That evening, I logged into my bank account. The wire was there, $50,000 plus interest. I took a screenshot, then wired a slice of it straight to the surgical ward that had pulled me back together. I walked down myself, coffee carrier in hand, and left cups on the nurse's station desk. They didn't know the story. They didn't need to. Before bed, I opened my email one last time. There was the confirmation of my bonus payout, the subject line dry and bureaucratic. Beside it on my nightstand was the hospital bracelet I still hadn't cut off. One paper proved I was valued at work. The other reminded me I was lucky to even be alive to see it. If stories like this give you reason to stand your ground, hit subscribe and like, and tell me where you're listening from. I read them all. And if you ever doubt whether truth matters in a fight like this, remember, in the end, it wasn't my voice that won. It was the receipts.